Hi everybody, and I have Lawrence with me today. Lawrence, hi.
Hi Sapi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you holding up with this winter?
Well, I'm working from home, so most of the time I'm in the blankets. So
oh my gosh, and
cool.
is any work being done?
Here and there. So I only dressed up for you today.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's a pity you guys can't see, but he's looking really sharp. He's looking really sharp. So Lawrence, you're probably the oldest that we've spoken to. Maybe you can just give our audience a bit of context about you so we can have an idea of who we're listening to.
Okay. The oldest being a 37-year-old male. I'm a married father of 2. Well, now 3, because my wife says I'm going through a midlife crisis. I got a dog. His name is Gustav.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I'm a father of 3. Two human children and 1 dog. What about me? Okay, so I think COVID-19, especially working at home, has been an eye-opener for me for a lot of things in terms of what's important, family, and health as well.
Right.
I think I've gained more weight being at home.
I think everyone's gained more weight during lockdown.
So now my best friend is getting married in September. And that's
cool. Congratulations.
So we were trying out suits. That's when I realized I couldn't fit. Actually, these are the clothes that I can only fit. I don't fit any of my suits anymore. So that was a bit of a shocker. Specifically, I was also then required to travel for work and to wear a suit. So I had to get a new suit, and I'm not going to tell you the size. But yeah, it was a huge difference. So for me, I think that's the one thing that I've just been thinking about as well, just in terms of, okay, what do I need to do next? I can't just be chilling at home. The kids learn close by.
Are they back to actual physical lessons?
Yeah, they were, but now they're on holiday again.
Okay.
And you can't feel lazy and say, let's get takeout. So I'm trying to move away from the takeaway and eat healthy food.
Okay. I'm surprised you're saying that. Lawrence is such a great cook. I mean, if you follow him on Instagram, he's always sending us these really fancy, high-end Michelin stars type plates on Instagram. So is that for real, or you're just...
No, that was for real. But the thing is, a lot of effort I had to get into that was a lot, especially after I've cooked. The kitchen is a mess, so the amount of cleaning that has to be done in terms of the kitchen was a mess, and I think I've gotten lazier now. So you wake up in the morning, you attend meetings, and somehow people think that meetings is work. So you're in meetings the whole day, then you actually then have to catch up with your actual work after hours. So it's a real drag. So I haven't had really had time to myself. But I took some time off this week, and I think I'm recharged now. Okay. And I think I'll take more time out and just so I'm not opening the laptop. I'm just not doing anything. Yes.
Unplugging.
Unplugging. Definitely.
So you mentioned how much you've put on weight. I think that a lot of people, I think we all have put on a couple of kgs, especially like last year with the first like lockdown that just went on for months, with gyms closed, everything closed, and you're not aware that maybe your eating habits have slightly changed and you're not going out as much. Did you exercise before, or just the fact that you were contained within a confined space, like just your physical home, because you really couldn't drive or anything like that, like at this last year?
So it's 2 things. I would really like to blame it on COVID, but also for me it was the stark reality that I am not doing anything myself. I could have just taken walks around the neighborhood. I wasn't doing that. So yes, I would really love to blame COVID in terms of I'm sitting down the whole day, yes, with work, but I'm quite sure I did have time just to stand up and walk. Where I stay, there are a couple of older gentlemen, some in the 60s, who usually knock on my door and ask me to walk, and I always have an excuse.
Shame on you.
I always have an excuse. I hope Brian is not hearing this, but I always have an excuse, and he tries so much. Just let's go for a walk. Look, I would say yes. The COVID had a hand in it in terms of the lockdown and confined space. But I would also want to say that I did have time to do that, and I didn't.
You just chose not to.
Yeah. So
it wasn't a priority.
Nah. Now it is, because I'm hypertensive, and it's something that's been in my family for a very long time. My mother's hypertensive. My father passed away from a heart attack. I think my brother is also hypertensive. We're all on meds for hypertension. So now it's a stark reality when you then realize that if I don't do something about it, it could be a story repeating itself, so to speak. Yeah.
Okay. So, are you more aware of your physical health now, like being deliberate to look after your physical body?
Yes, I am.
Because of the hypertension purely, has that been the trigger, or you've had other factors as well contribute? Okay, besides the weight gain and having to change your whole wardrobe, which is quite expensive.
Yes, which is quite expensive. So besides that, I think one of the things you realize is that when you start shopping for easy slip-on shoes, because you don't want to tie your shoelaces, it's an effort. It might sound like a joke, but I'm serious. And just walking upstairs, and you just realize, you know what, I'm still quite young and I shouldn't be exerting myself like that. And also when my kids are fairly young, and when you're looking for excuses not to spend outdoor time with them and so forth, and so for me, I think those are the indicators. I mean, I just compare there's no excuse, so to speak. I think I'm in a pretty good place where I can't then say, this was a problem. I do have a gym membership, which is paid by the office. I've used it once or twice. I've used it once or twice, but so for me, there's really not an excuse. So there wasn't really a trigger. I think it's just a number of things that you then just realize.
Okay. We've had a couple of cases, like over, I know they've just been amplified, but just this more and more cases of people like under the age of 40, where you hear that someone was in the shower and they just had a heart attack or collapsed, and you look at the age and you think, this shouldn't be happening to people in this age range. Is it all like physical health, or do you think that there's a link to mental health and just not being able to express? Is there more pressure on men now than before, or?
Most definitely. I wouldn't want to put it on physiological issues only, but mental health in terms of, I think there's a lot more stress in terms of financial issues. And unfortunately, as men, we don't talk about it.
Right.
We suppress it and we don't deal with it, and it keeps on building up. So one thing I've realized, you didn't realize someone collapsed and they were going through a lot of issues, especially financial issues. Which I'm happy that at work I actually went through that financial education course.
Right.
It lifted a lot from my shoulders. I don't commit to stuff I can't afford. I don't put myself under pressure, and I try to really live within my means. And it has helped me a lot. So I feel that, especially our generation, because we've always then said we need to be somewhere at this age, we put ourselves under a lot of pressure. Unfortunately, all of us can't have the same script, so to speak. But the one thing that I've realized, especially even with my peers, is that most of their stress is coming from financial issues. And then how they deal with it, they don't talk to anyone. We don't, as men, we don't talk about these issues. Probably the only time you then talk to someone is because you want to borrow money.
Right.
Or they feel that I'm not, people think that I want to borrow money, but I just want to let go, I just want to share. So I'm lucky enough that maybe I'm part of a men's group at church where we can just talk. Doesn't mean that you get the financial help,
right,
but you can just talk to someone and they can take you through that. Which is the one thing that I feel a lot of men don't do. We brag, we show off, but we're not vulnerable to each other. We don't talk about the things that we're going through in that way, that I'm really going through a tough time. What do I do? I need help in terms of we don't cancel each other in that way. Okay. And we're also very reluctant to seek counseling.
Right, yes.
Because we think it's a sign of weakness. So in the end, this always builds up. And you'll then find a lot of men then being hypertensive, and then you don't even realize that you're suffering from hypertension. Like when I was diagnosed, I'd had a root canal. So I'd reacted to the penicillin. So I'd gone in just to get my prescription changed. And then the doctor was like, your BP. Then they checked again. Then they said, we can't release you. It's very high. Then from then on, I knew I had an issue I had to manage in terms of hypertension.
Yeah, because I understand with men, like, there's nothing ever wrong. Like going to the doctor for the why. Like, I'm good, I'm fine. I mean, why should I? I mean, I'm the man.
Yeah.
So I just want to go back to what you're saying around financial education.
Yeah.
And you're saying, because you work for a financial institution, you have the benefit of going through a financial course. And it just made me think that there is quite an emphasis on financial education, I think, with a lot of financial institutions across the continent. But it seems sort of biased towards women. Do men equally need the same sort of financial advice that we hear a lot of amplification for women, like learn how to handle your finances, learn how to be responsible, how do you build your business in terms of financial education and stuff? Do you think the same effort needs to be put on men, or I'm just missing the male cues? Because
now more than ever, I think that's very necessary. I think there was women were easy targets, so to speak, because they were classified as, okay, this group is vulnerable and so forth. How do we help them? And there was an assumption that the men have got it because the men were breadwinners.
Yes.
But especially with the situation in Zimbabwe, a lot of people have lost their jobs. You had a job and suddenly you don't have it. People have not saved and so forth. Then the stark reality then comes, how do I feed my family? Then you also realize that most of, formal employment or informal employment, you've got about 70% which is informal or even higher. So these are people who are hustling.
Yeah.
So every day it's a plan. You have to make a plan. Now, as the pot grows smaller, you have to come up with a plan. So I think it's more important in terms of both men and women, especially if they're couples, to seek financial education. I think it's necessary because, like I said, the script doesn't work anymore. You want to send your children to private school, but you don't have the means to support that. You want a house and so forth, but you can't afford, all those things. And then people put themselves through unnecessary pressures and debt, just to maintain a certain lifestyle because they haven't really been informed. So for me, I think, yes, I agree with you in terms of financial education has been targeted towards women and probably a younger demographic, and not the older demographic, but it's the older demographic that makes the decisions that affect all of us. So I also feel that had my father had financial education, what I know now, I'll probably have been in a better position growing up, and my siblings as well. But unfortunately, that was not the case.
Yeah.
So whatever decisions he made, they affected us.
Yeah.
And whatever decisions I make will affect my kids. So I think we do need to start, especially with the breadwinners, in terms of what are their plans. It's not just about receiving money and spending it. It's really planning.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially, I think our generation, like you rightly say, our fathers were not privy to some of these advices, etc. And we often talk about how our white counterparts, how there's generational wealth that you find with white families that you're not going to find with us black families, because we don't pass on financial education to our children, to our siblings. It's just not done. Is that a function of just our patriarchal society in terms of Black culture? Because it's very different when you look at your white counterparts. They actually teach their children how to save and instill those. And our parents, maybe, or they didn't know better, but are we in a position to hopefully flip that script now?
I like that question, because I think a few weeks ago I reached a nirvana moment, comparing black culture and white culture. I realized that maybe I'm wrong, but I looked at my own pastor and also the white people that I've interacted with, and I realized that, like you said, it's generational wealth. But they reached a point where they said, I am content with what I have. We are aspirational in terms of I keep on wanting more. Yes. Someone mentioned to me, what was it?
Is there anything wrong with wanting more though?
Someone, he said to me, a lifestyle inflation type thing, where he said, the moment Lawrence has got a Toyota Hilux, he now wants an S-Class. The moment he has an S-Class, I now want a Rolls Royce.
Right.
And there's this aspiration of wanting more. And the moment I reach that stage, there's inflation on my lifestyle. You understand? So there's no contentment. But you have a person reaching a certain level and saying, you know what, I'm good with my house where I am. I don't want a mansion. And I'm going to spread whatever I've got to the next generation. Unfortunately, that's not what we're doing. We're spending our money to reach the next level, and therefore the next generation will not have anything at the end of the day. So if I get my first house, then why should I want a mansion the size of State House? And once I get it, there's that lifestyle inflation whereby the upkeep of that lifestyle is high.
And your revenue or what's coming in may not.
Yes, so it's just going to maintain it, but it's not going to live for the next generation or the generation after that. But let's look at our white counterparts. You'll be surprised that they've been living in the same house for years, for generations, and they've been content in that lifestyle, and they've been able then to spread the wealth to the next generation, which is something then that I just realized that, okay, do I really want to be driving Rolls Royces? Or I should say, when I reach a certain level, I'm good. Now let me make a plan for my kids and their kids and so forth, for the next generation, which is my problem with aspiration, that it will never end, because in the end you want a space station. So you need to be somewhere and say, you know what, this is my level. I'm going to plateau here and then grow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to flip that and just say, okay, so are you saying that, like right now, you don't have like a savings account or something for your kids? Is it that the only way you're going to start building for their future is if you say, guys, when I reached 1, 2, 3 milestones, for me, that's it. I'm now, whatever it is that I get, I'm now going to be, it's going to be for my kids.
So
does it mean you stop planning and having bigger goals and dreams?
No, I don't think you stop planning.
Right.
But I think it's in terms of what you want to achieve now, because you always continue having bigger dreams. And that's good. It's good to have a plan and so forth. But where do you enjoy that?
You mean at what point do you enjoy that? Okay.
So I'll give you an example. It was not that I couldn't afford it, but I'd never taken my kids out on a holiday. And they're growing up and they're not having those experiences because I kept on saying, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this. But then those things matter as well in terms of their growth. So at what point do I then say, okay, I've got my first house in Mount Pleasant. We've worked for it. When do I enjoy that house? When I now want a mansion in the Grange or somewhere else, do I keep on, then when I move there, do I keep on looking for something else to make money on? Like I said, there's a lifestyle inflation to everything. So when does it stop for me so that I can then contribute to the next generation? I think that's where I'm trying to go with this, that even if it's a business, where do my aspirations plateau so that I can contribute to the growth of the next generation? At 80, do I still have aspirations to keep on growing? Or I'm like, you know what, I've played my part, let me enjoy. I would like to enjoy when I'm 50. I don't want to enjoy life when I'm 80. Yes,
absolutely. So
then, then you hand over the baton to the next generation. That's my type of thinking in terms of, my dad, when he passed away, he was still working, I had finished college, I was working and so forth. Could it have been less easy on him had he stopped working earlier and, and so forth. But unfortunately, it was this country. But those are the type of things that I didn't think of, that, he was still working, he was still paying rent and so forth, Where do we plateau in terms of, so I think that's why financial education is necessary, because it gives you goals. And once you learn to attain goals and make plans and so forth, it helps you. Okay. So I'm not saying people shouldn't be aspirational. Please, if your target is that Rolls Royce, let it be either the Rolls Royce. But I also think then that you always need to consider the next generation. But the Rolls Royce is about me. But what am I leaving for the next generation? And it's not just my family, it's, us, who, yeah.
Okay. All right. You mentioned that you've got the benefit of having a men's group where you sit around and you can be vulnerable. What about that space makes it safe for you to let down your guard and share?
I think first of all it's a place where it's safe. There's just a feeling of safety. I don't have to pretend to be someone who I'm not. These guys have known me at my lowest when I didn't have a job, and they've known me when I've had a good job. And it's easier. Well, maybe it's a brotherhood of Christians as well. So we have the same beliefs and so forth. But it's easier for us just to talk. It's easier for me just to pick up the phone and just have a conversation with someone in the middle of the night or what I'm going through. And I've seen that it helps. But the onus has also been on us then to mentor the younger generation. So I've got quite a number of young men that I mentor, and it's not just me talking to them. It's also by having them see my lifestyle. So I invite them home, we talk, because it's one thing to say things, you can also say all these Bible verses and so forth. But if you're living a different lifestyle, it's different. So also then just to let them see my life, how I live, and inspire them that, look, there's always this beginning. It might not be now, but you have a beginning. And just to have those conversations. People go through a lot. Like I said, it's really hard for any men to just break down and be vulnerable. But it's a space where you then, I think it's helped us, just to be vulnerable to each other and talk.
Yeah.
And help each other. Cool. Yeah.
I really like the aspect of mentorship, that you're passing it forward. Yeah. And that's really, really important, that we raise up the younger generation and we speak into their lives. I think that's really, really, that's a really awesome thing that you're doing. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
I want to just go into let's talk about family for a little bit. You're working from home.
Yes.
I know your wife also works from home.
Yeah.
We had a lot of cases and stories, and things were going viral, etc., and being shared on social about how that proximity. Usually couples, you've got the 8 hours where you're in your own spaces, own offices. Now office is home, and you've got 2 kids. How did you find the balance? How did you and your wife find that balance? And was there an impact, and how did you navigate through it?
It wasn't easy. I think they couldn't wait to get me out back to the office. Because the first days, I would start just noticing that the maid is putting too much milk, then I would mention, it's like, it's none of your business, leave it alone, type thing. But in terms of work, I think there was just that balance. We give each other space. So when she's got her meetings, I go out of the way, totally. And also then when I've got my meetings, she's in another room. The kids, at first it was difficult because they want to use the TV, and that's where my office is. But now, I think they've grown up, and you can just keep them quiet with iPad and so forth, But I've also been trying to encourage them to read. So we drove to Victoria Falls, and there was no network, and they were complaining. Then I said, had you been reading a book, you wouldn't be. It wouldn't seem like a long journey. So I think they're quite old, and we've been able to handle that. And luckily enough, lockdown happened with when they're quite older, so they're not a problem. Okay. But for us, I think it was just respecting the space in terms of when it's work, and also.
So you put in boundaries.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So totally, when she's doing her Zoom meetings and so forth, I am nowhere near. I shut myself out in the bedroom because sometimes I'm just annoying. But also when there's that downtime, just taking walks or maybe a drive together and so forth. Being cooked up in a space can be so you tend to get to each other, but I think it's just about giving each other space as well. Yeah.
All right. So I'm hearing space. I also hear that you would also take yourselves out of that familiar environment. So you take a step away from home and either take a drive, etc. Did you do that as a family or on your own? Did you do that on her own?
So sometimes I'll do it on my own. She'll do it on her own. Sometimes as a family, and sometimes just the two of us would even just go for breakfast. Especially when the kids went back to school, it would be like I can actually just have my meetings whilst we're having breakfast or let's go out. Then obviously I ended up getting a dog. His name is Gustav.
Gustav!
Yes, Gustav.
Gosh, from the Disney thing.
Yes, from Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast.
So now, and I think he's grown on her more, because when I got her, that was the first dog I ever bought. It was just impulse buying. Financial education didn't work there, but it was something else.
It was an emotional need you needed to fill.
So the person who got it from actually lied to me, because I was supposed to get him at 2 months, and I think I got him at like 3 or 4 weeks. So he was still a baby. Then we took him to the vet, and the vet was like, since you can't take him back to his mother, you have to give him formula and so forth.
Oh wow, so you had a baby.
Yes, and a bottle. So the next day she goes to the shops and she buys him Cerelac, and I was like, so now he's grown on her as well. So I think it's just the dynamic of respecting boundaries, which has helped. Work is work. Usually when we're working and no one watches the TV or anything like that, someone is in another room. If she's working in the lounge, I'm in another room and so forth, especially when it's work. So that has helped. Yeah.
All right. That sounds very healthy. So Lawrence, as we wind down, what's from your perspective, what piece of advice would you give to someone, a young guy, you're approaching 40, you've got your wife, you've got your kids, how do you maintain that balance in life, just from your view?
From my view, like I said, I'm a Christian, so I always put God first. In terms of just having a relationship with God, for me it has been an anchor in my most trying times. I think also just to surround yourself with the right people. That's very important. Surround yourself with people that will build you, people will advise you, and just the right people. Mentorship is necessary, and also just learning to be vulnerable. It's okay. It doesn't have to be another man, but just be able to talk to someone to get advice, or just to air out your grievances. I think those are important for any young man. Just learn to be vulnerable. It doesn't have to be macho world anymore. And you don't really have to fear judgment, because at the end of the day, your path is your own and no one else's.
Absolutely. Yeah, your path is your own. That's really, really incredible.
Yeah.
And guys, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fine.
It's okay.
It's okay.
And even though that Rolls Royce is 1,000 steps away, you can be content with just 10 steps.
Yeah.
It's that's what matters.
Don't put yourself under just that extreme pressure.
Don't.
Yeah, one step at a time.
Don't. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lawrence.
Thank you, Sappy. I've enjoyed myself.
Yeah, it's been fun. Gustav.
Yes.
Remember to follow Thando channel, like and share your comments with us. Episodes will be uploaded on Spotify, and you can download the podcast episodes at any time. Help us spread the word.